I'm Jamie Forbes. We're here for Sunstorm Fine Art Magazine with Mr. Jackie the Joke Man Martling. Hi, Jackie, my friend.
It is so nice to see you. And I'm flashing back on 1982 when I was going to be doing an interview for, I think it was News 12. And I was so excited, and that was back in the days long before cell phones. So if the guy came to your house, you would have to, the newsmaker, the news reporter would have to leave the phone number of where he was in case there was an emergency. And just like this, they set up the camera, got all ready to go, and it was 1982, and I was running Governor's Comedy Shop, and I was getting known, but it was still a nice thing to be doing a TV spot on News 12. We were ready to roll. I've never forgotten this. And the phone rang, and the guy's name was Dave, and they, hey, it's for Dave. And he had to pack up and leave because a truck had turned over on the Long Island Expressway.
Oh my!
Full of mayonnaise, and there was mayonnaise all over the highway.
That's very funny.
And so I lost my.
You got preempted by mayonnaise.
Preempted by mayonnaise.
Oh, that's
and what
very
a
funny.
Smelly mess! Can you imagine? Whenever I get interviewed, I always feel compelled to tell that story. This is so nice, so nice. Look at this. It's been snowing, feet of snow for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. We had such a horrible winter, and you decided to come out and talk to me, and we're out on the deck in a 65-degree day looking out at the Long Island Sound, looking over at Stamford. This is...
Sunny Bayville.
This is Long Island. This is our karma coming back to us.
This is our karma. Now, I first met you when we were... I think I was a sophomore, and you were a junior or senior.
And the Sonics, my rock and roll band, played at the village school dances and at Syosset High School and at the Oyster Bay St. Paul's Methodist Church. And I met you and all your pretty girlfriends.
Oh, remember? Well, we won't go into their names, but we knew them all. But this is what I remember most. And when you come up in conversation about Jackie the Joke Man, Jackie Martling, I say, have you ever heard Jackie play piano? Now, you were telling me before you're not big on piano.
It was guitar.
But Jackie, you sat at the piano and could play. I remember that. I used
to play enough that I could play and we could all sing and have fun.
Yes.
So it probably seemed like I was doing fabulous, but in reality, but you know what? If the scene was good, and if there was a few people playing and was singing and we're all having a great time, that's all it takes. You get a great piano player, maybe they're not going to play what everybody wants, and so.
Oh no, I thought you had the energy command. I thought the house was going to rock. The house literally rocked.
Yeah, because it's a different thing. Like a guitar, you can sit around with a guitar, but it's a whole different thing when somebody's banging on the piano and everybody's singing. So thank you for remembering.
I'll never forget. That's one of my favorite moments in memory that I walk to every now and then, and we had, but it was the energy, your energy. So you bring that same energy to your performance art.
I've always been on fire on stage. I'm sure way back then beer had a lot to do with it, but I haven't had a drink in almost 10 years, and I go on stage and to tell my jokes, and I'm a sophomore in high school. People are like, you still do that? And I'm like, yeah, I love it. And I could tell my jokes in an elevator by myself. It's just something I've always enjoyed,
But your jokes are timeless. They're in the here and the now, and we were saying there's nothing very funny about today's situation.
Right, so a self-contained silly joke about marriage or a situation or about your dog, it's a silly, timeless thing that the jokes have been around forever and ever and ever, But you bring the energy and you tell the story. And you have the rhythm and it's down. It's a package. It's a delivery. It's a whole thing.
And what was your favorite venue to play over the years?
I had a lot of favorites. There was a place in West Orange called Rascals Comedy Club that I really, really loved, really a lot. But I still work at the New York Comedy Club in Boca Raton, which I really love. Mm-hmm. I work down at the Shell at the Trump Marina, which is an ideal room. And now there's a room at the Mohegan Sun. If it's a nice room where it's conducive to everybody hearing really well with a good sound system, it's a night to night thing. It's the crowd. Mm-hmm, it's not the place. Mm-hmm. But some places like Rascals, always, I worked there a billion times, and it was always, 400 people ready to laugh, ready to laugh, you know. But I worked in Jersey the other night for like 300 people at a little clubhouse. They have a little local clubhouse, Packanack Lake. But they just were so nice. I mean, a lot of people listened to me for a long time on the Howard Stern show, and they feel like they really know me.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I get up there and just tell these silly jokes. Some people come up and say, Jackie, I've seen you 12 times. And a lot of these jokes, over the years, I rotate them, but how many times can you rotate them? People have heard, and they say, I still laugh. They say, I'm laughing at the joke. And I'm like, geez, and I knew that. I knew it, but I'm still laughing, which is very flattering.
So you went to Iraq.
I went with Stars and Stripes to Iraq with Bo Bice, who was the runner-up a couple of years ago on American Idol, to Carrie Underwood. I don't watch the show, so I wasn't familiar, but him and the guys was so great. And they were like country rock, so they did an hour, and I started the show with like 35 or 40 minutes of my jokes. And we did Camp Victory, Camp Liberty. Me and Bo actually got in a helicopter and went down the river just like in Platoon, flying right over the palm trees. And we played a couple of shows in the middle of nowhere where you get picked up in a van that had bullet holes in it. It was very exciting.
Wow.
And I'll tell you, you couldn't believe the morale of the soldiers. The guys and the girls were so phenomenal. And if we did a show for 500 people, 500 people would be in line for pictures, autographs, to talk to us.
Wow.
The shows would be an hour and a half, 2 hours long, and we'd be there for 4 or 5 hours, signing, talking. They were so grateful to us for coming. But, so many people go overseas and they come back and say, oh, it was the greatest thing. But, and it's like enough of that. But then you do it, and it's like, my goodness. It was like, I floated for months. I still get emails from people. When are you coming back? They just, anybody that's watching this, jokeland@aol.com. I answer all my email. I love it. And jokeland@aol.com. And it was just so great, just so much fun. And talk about an audience they're ravenous to be entertained, let alone, I'm telling jokes, like homespun jokes from the playground, from, when they're kids. So it was like, like shooting rats in a trap, I guess that's not the best wartime analogy, but it was great fun. Great fun.
So that was your favorite place to go. Who was the person you wrote your favorite joke for?
Well, I came across a joke in 1978. A guy called me from Peru and woke me up in the middle of the night. JR, you might even remember JR.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
He's down in Peru, misbehaving, and he called me up at like 3 a.m, kept me on the phone long enough so I'd remember. And he said, Chief, I got to tell you this joke. It's the funniest joke I ever heard. And he told me this joke. And then a couple months later, I was with a guy who told me that he had met Rodney Dangerfield. And so I sat down and wrote out all my jokes that I knew for Rodney Dangerfield and sent him. It turned out the guy didn't know him. My friend Richie Minervini, who started the East Side Comedy Club in Huntington in 1980, he had exaggerated knowing Rodney, but I had already typed up the jokes, so I sent the jokes to Rodney, and he called me up. And
that's
it
funny.
was, he answered the phone, hello. And from hello, I knew who it was, hello. So and I said, who is this? Rodney. I said, Rodney who? He said, I knew you were funny. You're very funny, Some of these jokes are funny. And the joke, the most famous joke, he said, this 2-bag of jokes are the funniest thing I ever heard. And it was to his dying day. He said that was his best joke. And it's an old Southern joke, but it was, I was with a girl last night who was so ugly, she was known as a 2-bagger. You not only had to put a bag over her head, you had to put a bag over your own head in case her bag ripped. which is and they tell me that they use that joke on Jersey.
Funny.
Sure, they use it on all these different, but it's just
funny.
a funny joke. But I really loved that. And of course, for 15 years, actually 18 years, I sat there and gave lines to Howard Stern, which was very funny. And one of the funniest ones ever, I was in Atlantic City on a Friday night, and he announced his separation from his wife in the afternoon, so it wouldn't be, so spend the weekend, boiling away. And so the entire world was tuned in on Monday.
Oh.
You know, like, what's he going to say about this? And I wrote notes for him that, you know, he would read. And I wrote a note. My friend Bob Burford, you might even know Burf, has this framed in his den. But the first 4 words out of Howard's mouth that Monday morning, and it's funny because very often things that I wrote, you know, quotes of his, made it to the UPI, and you know, when it went across the international news.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and it's always fun to see your stuff in print. And the first 4 words out of his mouth that Monday morning were, "All broads, please call." and every news magazine in the world, "All broads, please call." Those were the first 4 words.
That's very funny.
And people said, "Oh, you wrote anything, Howard?" I didn't. I wrote some of the stuff that Howard said. He's so funny and so talented. But anybody that's playing at that level, if you make them a little funnier, it goes a long way. The analogy I say is like if somebody's a world-class sprinter, if there's a slight breeze at their back, being just a little faster makes, you know, so.
Well, I remember when you were no longer on that show, and of course we were your fan, not his fan, and the tone changed, and I didn't think it was as energetic.
Well,
and I thought you brought a lot of energy and play to the situation that wasn't there.
Everybody has their opinion, and my friends,
mine.
thank you very much, and my friends are very nice about it. And, you know, it was hit and miss who liked what, but I loved doing it, and I tell everybody that was the smartest decision I ever made at the time. You know, looking back, I wish I could have dealt with my life differently and not been off the show, but I was in a vortex. I don't know if that's the right word, but I was, you know, my marriage wasn't good. I wasn't sleeping. I was drinking too much, and I was one of those things where I couldn't see a way out. And Jamie, all I had to do was
things.
sleep. But I couldn't make myself sleep. Now I'm 63.
Yeah.
All I do is nap. Like if somebody told me, if you want to make $1 million a year, all you got to do is sleep more, I'd be like, really? You know, you couldn't get me out of the bed. So that's the irony of the whole thing is I'd be a wealthy man if I had to just go into sleep.
Yeah,
right now, I took a nap before you got
here. I understand.
So, it's so funny.
Well, that I understand because I go to sleep very early and I get up very early. But if I don't get my 8 hours of sleep at night, I can't function for my entire day. I'm not a napper, but I have to.
You know, I read 1,000,000 years ago that when you get older, you only need 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night. But who the hell?
Oh no, there's a big difference.
You know, you read about these famous people that only sleep 3 hours a night.
That was me. I did that for almost 25 years, and I really burned out.
Enough.
Yeah, I can't do that. But sleep is so. I'm there with you on sleep. I agree. Sleep is good.
But I mean, people say, so you left that incredible job to get some sleep, and it's way more involved than that, of course. But it's kind of funny.
Well, you know, those vortexes can be either opportunities or it's a real check-in. It's a real call because if you don't heed the call, you really never know where you're going after that.
Change is important.